Okay, all you devils, how's it going? Happy Friday. Here we are, the 16th, and it's a little after noon for me here in Austin. We're going to take a look, kind of a deep dive here into Bitcoin. It's not getting any easier to come up with a trade here. It does seem to be that the market is still holding its cards close to its chest, if you will, allow for that analogy. So I've got 4 different looks at it here that we're going to review here. We'll of course, we'll look at it from an Elliott perspective. I'm going to revisit the Wyckoff look at it and see if we can make some sense of what's happening there. So let's just start here as I have for the last couple of weeks here. This is the daily chart out here. So still, you can see we've come down here. This is where we talked about the potential confluence here. Now the little kiss on the regression channel. It seems to, just looking at it, it sets up that potential to come down here. We'd love to see it test that trend line. Right now, it doesn't have to come down this low, but somewhere, wouldn't mind seeing that get a little test just for the technical confluence of that little tap. But nothing says we have to do that, right? It's not just because we're hitting a regression channel here that we have to come down. It's not what I'm saying. We can shit this thing with Bitcoin. You never know. This might be a little pull, and then we're going up to break this high and challenge this high. But my view, it doesn't look like it's quite ready for that just yet, right? Even though I remain, I mean, as big a bull as, well, I mean, I suppose there are some pretty big ones out there. Raoul Paul just talking about Bitcoin at $1 million over the next 5 years, which I can't say that I want to disagree with him. So I would put myself certainly in the strong bull camp. So a lot of people will comment if I'm not bullish, because I'm usually so bullish that I'm losing some of that bullish enthusiasm. Quite the contrary. It's just where's the right timing for the next entry. I don't think we're there yet. I don't see it just yet. Much as I'm dying to give you guys a long entry, I just don't see it yet. Now, that's one thing to say it. Let's go dig into it and see why I might be reluctant to be adding to longs here. So big picture here. Again, I mean, really, you could say we're just in a trading range. But let's go dig a little deeper here. So this is a 4-hour here over on Coinbase. Now, the broader strokes here, and just keeping it relatively simple for the Elliott count here, this would be the simplified version. It's hard not to think you've got a clear ABC here, that this looks like ABC could be in here for an X wave, and then we'd be looking for an ABC to bring us down here for the Y. Now, this would set up just perfectly. All the confluence here would be ideal, with the possible exception of the fact that from swing low to swing high, I had the wolf range on here. Let's go back. If indeed, if this is going to end up playing as an impulsive wave 1 here, and we were going to resolve this down here, I've got point of control, I've got this prior triangle apex, shift median lines set up here at the corner, and in addition to that, if we were just basic Elliott length of the W proposed from the pivot of the X, if indeed this is going to hold as our X pivot, well, you see this confluence we get right down here. And so you've got literally the 100, assuming this pivot holds, which is, there's a count here that has us pushing a little bit higher. But at this moment in time, as you're just, remember, an Elliott count is always just a snapshot in time, can change before the end of this video. So, but looking at that, you can certainly see the ingredients here for this to be corrective. Now, we've come up into this area of prior resistance. We want to call it distribution, whatever you want to call it. You can say it this way. Last time we were up here, we struggled, we failed, and we came back down, right? So here's our sell-off. Now, something like this to put us down here, the Elliott count would just make more sense. We'd have a clear, despite the fact, and well, of course, nothing says we have to stop right here. If we were to go down here, now you'd be very clear on the idea that we had a second going in. If we're going to pivot here, again, it's not that a wave 2 we have to go down between the 50 and the 618. It's just what's most common. So if we look here and all of that confluence that supports this as potential support here, it's hard not to like this. But we're 2,500 points away from that, or $2,500 away from that. So this is going to be a fairly substantial sell-off if that's where we're headed. Now again, nothing says we must go there, but just looking at this count, Well, we'll look at the alternate, but you can certainly see the thinking here that an Elliottician, just keeping it simple, 3, 3. You would anticipate that likely there's going to be some retracement here, but again, it's just what's probable, not what is inevitable. It's just this is the probable count. So if we now dig into this, so you say, okay, well that's easy enough, 3 followed by 3. Well, we got to dig in here a little bit more just to be certain about whether or not we have enough here to complete, and that's why Bitcoin is often this way. The Elliott can be a little bit suspect, right? You don't get clear. Well, you just look at this impulse up. I guarantee you 10 Elliotticians are going to give you 10 different counts. But if you look at it, I mean, really, it's hard to argue with the idea that the basic structure of this is a 5, right? So this 1, 2, granted, right? I understand, right? It's not a perfect 2, 3, triangle, 4, up we go for the 5. I mean, that's the basic trend dynamics here. That's impulsive. We can say that, right? And considering the length that it travels. Hard to argue with this as an impulsive 1. Now, again, if we just look here at closes, A, B, C, A, B, are we done here? Well, let's go take a closer look at that. So, pulling that down, let's go over to, here I am on Bitstamp again, where I'm just allowing for the idea that this ABC is complete. So this is our potential W wave. Now, if we look in here, this is where it's getting a little tricky. It's also, this is a great challenge for an Elliottician or developing Elliottician. See if you can come up with a count here before I break into what I can dig out of this. This would be an excellent area to do both a bullish and a bearish. So if we just look here, let's see, let's take this off for the time being. Just looking at this, there's a lot of potential confluence here. So just looking at the geometry, right? So this coming up here to tag the channel, right? So that's, I mean, the geometry, right, so it has to catch your attention, right? So I mean, that's just a perfect ABC. So the question is, are we done here? Did we get enough to really have strong conviction in the idea that we have our pivot for the W here? Not so sure. So let me, let's see, this is a 2. Let me go to a 1 hour here. We'll open this up a little bit more. So there's one additional piece here that has, it just adds to the geometry here. So if I bring this up, now I gotta find it. Do I have it on this one? Maybe not. I think I've got it over on the other one here. So we'll come back to that. So let's just stay with the channel. It's close enough. If we're going A, and I think this is, again, it's not hard to spot it, right? So I think we can, let's see, we can go with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So we can get the basic structure here. This could be an expanded flat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Either way, this is a solid contender for an A wave here. And if I recall, it was technical as well. All right, so we come just shy of the goal. Well, let's bring that down. We just shy of the 618, right? So we just get a little. Now, I had really been struggling with this section here. It looks so much like a 5. So at a distance, it really looks like a 5. But I'll be damned if you really dig in there, you can get this to work as a 3. Now I gotta pop over here. Excuse me, guys. It's a little dicey, and you have to really get down here to a smaller time frame to see it. But you can clearly get a 1, 2 here. Then this little 3, 4, it's hard to see if you don't go down to here on a 15-minute. You can get the 3, 4, 5 to play there. Now, is it ideal? Well, of course not, right? Just the length of the 1, the time of the 2 relative to 4, it's not ideal, but you can definitely get 5 in there. 5, A, B, C into a B here. It's shallow for a B, but again, it's, we're just talking about tendencies. It's no requirement that the B goes up to the golden zone. And then I'll be damned, again, you can get, well, we could do it a couple of different ways. You could do it here, right? Although there is a, come off of here, there is a nice, I could do it this way. You could do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to get that to finish down here to complete the ABC to give us the B wave. Again, it's not perfect. Right, and at some point they all break down, right? You're not going to get 5 out of that last little swing down here. I'm on the 15-minute. You're not going to get 5 out of that. But pardon me, you're not going to get 5 out of this last little drive down. It's just one wick. But the basic shape is there. I can get the ABC to play here. So I'm getting more comfortable with the idea that that's a B wave here. Last week when we were looking at that, you know, you can see what most will look at here and say, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? That's what I was seeing. But if you dig a little deeper, because if it's not making sense, you got to go back here and dig into this and say, did I miss something? Could that work as an ABC? And I'll be damned. That can work. Now, coming off of this low is our B. All right, so again, I can get 5 up into this 1. A, B, C, we've got a decent 2 here, so I'm okay coming off of that. I've got a decent sense of where I am. Let me go back to a 60. 1, here's my, or pardon me, A, here's my B. Well, now coming off of that, here, let's take this one off first. 1, A, B, C into the 2. Well, if I'm thinking A, B, and we're trying to finish this, well, I'm looking for 5 to finish. Well, you can make a pretty solid case here that this needs one more swing down. Never the first click. One more swing down and then a swing up here to give us a completed 5. Now let's break into that count just a little bit. You see where I'm coming from. So 1 ABC down for the 2. Okay, well now coming up, again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Solid as a rock, right? Even the subdivision plays, right? Even in the 5th, all of it just perfect. Now, just to, because you might look at that and think, oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I could be done here. Well, slow down, because look at we're always trying to build a case based on the confluence. Well, look what I get here for my projection for my wave 3 here. I'm just clearing the 1618 here. So now, right off the bat, I want to put the wave 3 here. No, well, so then it becomes a matter of, now, is the subdivision there? So can I work backwards here? Can I get the impulsive third that I would need here coming off of this 2 low? And I'll be damned, right? Just like I don't that. So here's an example where I think 10 Elliotticians are going to give you the same 10 of the same counts. Well, maybe 9 out of 10. There's always going to be one guy who's got they tell you he's got an alternate. 1, 2, 3. Now this looks like an A, right? I mean, is it pretty? No, it's not. A, B. Doesn't look like that's done. So if you just zoom in here a little bit, 1, 2, 3, A, B, C. Looks like that's got to have one more push down. I should be careful of my language. It doesn't got to do anything, but it looks like it's got the potential. If this is the 2 and this is the 3, we're a little deep here. Right back to the point of control, visible range, of course. That sure does look like that could play one more time down. Right, and look where that puts us right here at an algo target. So we're right in our algo pocket here, right? This would be our sell zone. Now, I am not advocating that you sell that. I'm not right now. I mean, shit. I mean, is there a valid reason to sell it? Yeah. I almost never short Bitcoin. But I mean, this looks like, so what I'd rather have here is I'd rather have this complete as that 5, because then I know where I am. I know where I am in the count. So yeah, I've got this kind of ugly A wave here up into a B. It certainly goes far enough here, then coming down 1, 2, 3. Now, I sincerely doubt, I don't want to truncate ever unless I'm absolutely forced to. So it looks to me like that's A, B, C. Going in here, I get right into my kill zone down. I got a reasonable target. Well, let's put that all together, see how it looks. Well, this would be a candidate for the A, the B, the C coming down here. Well, let's also just add to that. Again, just standard ops. Jesus. Most annoying feature of TradingView. 1. Let's get our length of our A projected from our B. All right, what do we get there? Nice little confluence zone. So this is getting tighter and tighter. Now, so that puts us right, put in this, let's call it 11,150 to 1184. You see, I mean, we got a tight little box there. Now you start to look, okay, well, if I draw that left, what am I going to run into? All right, well, I've got some structure here, right? This clearly they went up here, grabbed a little liquidity, and brought it down. So I've got this nice little pocket here. Now this would set up rather nicely the idea that I got an ABC coming into a 4, and I've got a clear point here where I know that this count is going to start to break down. Because so even though you look at that and you think to yourself, well, wait a minute, now what if it overlaps? Okay, big deal. I'll go to a diagonal. Nope, not the case, because we have an impulse here. Now, could we wedge an ABC into that? Probably, but see, that's where Elliott you got to be careful about that. So where you're wedging things in to fit what you want to see in the market. Right now, I think what's more probable is if this starts to break down, we take out this swing and we start to head down, then we're back to the idea that this has been just a big ABC, right? A, B, and that we are going to finish here. If this ends up being as a 1, a 2, and then we go 3, 4, 5, well, clearly, right, the way I'm interpreting this right now would not be valid. We couldn't have the 1, 2, right? So we would need to revisit this now because of that. So then you say, well, that's contradictory to what you just said. Well, we don't have to do it just yet because right now we're playing perfect Elliott ball. This looks like just a perfect scenario for this to come down for the 4 here before going up for the 5. Let me pull that 4 out of this. All right, if it starts to break down, we'll be back here, revisit this, and perhaps just like this, there's usually a way to make it work, but you don't want to be in there going, oh shit, man, I got to wedge a 5 into that, and there's really no way to do it. That's where you got to be careful. But again, Elliott's not perfect. Nothing is perfect. There is no technical approach that's perfect all the time. So I would think that would be obvious, but some people are looking for that. Stop looking for that. Trade what you see, not what you want to see, and manage the risk, right? At the end of the day, you flip a coin. Heads I buy, tails I sell. With good money management, you make money over time, right? I say that so that to make the point that the emphasis is always on money management, always. This working through the puzzle, right? You either love it or you hate it, right? A lot of people like, oh, fuck, that's way too much of a pain in the ass. Give me just the easy, give me just the price action stuff. That's easy. Yeah, I can understand that, right? I understand that thinking. If I didn't think there was value here, I wouldn't spend time doing it. I wouldn't do it if I didn't think there was value here. So, all right, not to digress too much. Now, coming down here for this, boy, it tees up so well that I think this is a reasonable spot to be looking for. You're not swinging for the fence here. I would advise against trading with leverage here because we're getting mixed signals. But as a potential entry to buy, without leverage, I think there's a reasonable play here. Now let's see how that would look. Right? We still the assumption would be that it's an ABC. It's just the question is, are we done with the C yet? So if this is going to come down here, now heavy emphasis on if we're going to come down here, get this technical perfection, right? We even get a little low volume here right in front of the higher volume, and we're going to push up here for the 5. Boy, it's still, the idea is that it's still an ABC that's just completing. So if we pull back, let's go to a 2-hour here and look at that. Where would we be headed? All right, well now just to add to that, if this is the 2 here, and that's the 3, what do we get there? Does that get any more perfect? Well, actually, no, it doesn't. That's about as good as it gets. All right, if we see this, right? This is when Elliott can be, worth all of the time and energy and effort and memorization and how to work. And I got to get through this belt system, and I got all these belts to learn. I've got everything to memorize. When a trade like that sets up, that makes it all worth it, in my opinion. Otherwise, heads I buy, tails I sell. But so just to make this point, there is just oh my God, that's pretty. Now, the one other, I guess we can draw this in here. There's a couple of things always, right? When we get pivots like this, we want to start paying, well, let's see, I think it was over here. Well, let me show you how I come to this. So you start on the lowest pivot. Always go here. Now we're going to come down to this pivot right here. All right. I look there and I go, Now that could be if this is going to go substantially higher. If we're going up here, be back here revisiting that. But what I do notice, and this is not uncommon with median lines, is when you've got pivots like this that are all stacked right next to each other, you want to kind of look at each one of them. Well, if I could just go over one, or pardon me, this is slightly higher. This is the lowest. This is slightly higher. This is the second lowest. I mean, it's within a couple of ticks. If I get right on that pivot, look what I get right here. I'm smack dab on it. There we go. Secondary pivot, boom, boom, tag. So this is deep here, but there's your 80%. Jesus, trading just once, please fix that. There's your 80%. Boom, right there. All right, is it golden? Nope, it's not. But this was mighty close. So then, but you've got a secondary set of median lines here, which we'll look at on the next chart. But so looking at that, so the idea A, B, right, so that has you more back here thinking, oh man, perfect tag of the median line as we hit the channel. My C is in. Well, slow down. I think you have to be prepared for this play because of what I just showed you, because of the fact that this God damn it. Oh, TradingView, please fix this. 1, 2, perfect 1618 as I tag a median line. That looks awfully good for the 3. Down here, tap this structure, go up for that, get the 5. Right now, it doesn't. Now, could it keep going? Of course, right? We could go up here and get the median line again. Maybe we'll get second target here, but that looks awfully good. And then bumping into those previous highs. So as I look at this here, I swear to God, this seems like path of least resistance, right? To complete this 5 with all, it would just be, the structure of it would just be absolutely, couldn't be any better, right? 3, 4, 5. If we get that, let me pull that off. Right, there's a perfect Elliott wave, perfect impulse, right, just perfect. So I don't want to bet against perfect. I don't want to count on perfect, but I don't want to bet against it. Let me delete that. Let's get that off of here. So that's what I'm watching for. Now, all of that said, how am I doing? 21 minutes? Okay, so recognizing that that's a candidate here. Let's go look at this through a Wyckoff lens. All right, so first let's sit back here on an 8 hour. So I've cleaned this up a little bit. I was a little sloppy on this last week, as a few Wyckoff aficionados were quick to point out. I was a little sloppy. I tell you the truth, I had done a bunch of copy and paste, and I just left a couple of them over here. So, but my apologies to Wyckoff advocates, aficionados, experts. I was a little sloppy there, but I think we have this cleaned up now. But really, my broader point was, since this certainly looked like distribution, the concern was, as we had come down into this area here, did we have another distribution happening, right? That would set up the potential for that to come down, a third time and find another range down here, which is what the concern was. Well, now you can see, it's just having drawn this, we've now tapped the upper, well, let's just call it structure here, and we'll get into the Wyckoff terminology. But we're just tapping that structure here, so you can see how potentially, but now again, it's always just potential. If this is going to come down here, we're going to hold this structure here and kick up one more time. Well, that fits with the Elliott count just perfectly, doesn't it? Right, would be just perfect. So that's really what the concern was, is that if we were looking at it from that context, that perhaps, from a Wyckoff perspective, the idea that we would go through, we start here, reaccumulate, distribute here, come down, and then reaccumulate to go higher. As I said last week, it's not that that's not possible, or shit, anything's possible. It's just not what's most commonly seen, right? If you're going to distribute to reaccumulate that close and go up, well, and we are talking about Bitcoin. So that was the thinking. So let me come down here to a 4 hour here, where I think clean this up just enough here. It's a little tricky here, and I'll welcome your comments, Wyckoff experts. Because if this is our selling climax here, and our automatic rally is right here, well, it does look like this is awfully much for an upthrust here. So it's almost like we get a secondary kick here. So I just kind of drew it this way. Here, let's try and flatten that out. Bring that across here, right? Come here. There we go. Okay, so if this is our automatic rally, secondary test, that's awfully big for an upthrust. So I just drew this. It's almost like we're defining the range with a channel with a center line here. So if this is our upthrust coming back here, we do get a little baby spring down here for a secondary test. Looks like you got to label it something. Likely last point of supply. Oh, some will tell you this is the creek, this is the creek. I think you could probably just, where's my, Just something along this line. Here's your creek. Here's the jump. This is the jump across the creek here, which this is just Wyckoff nomenclature, right? You could just consider, you want to make it simple, right? Which is always what I'm trying to do, is simplify. We just do it this way. Consider it a trend line. Here's your big jump, right? Where we get again, this is Wyckoff nomenclature, but this is the thrust up that breaks resistance. So up we go. This looks like a sign of strength, another big up thrust, but this now is starting to look like potentially it's another distribution. So for this to hold in the context of Wyckoff thinking, if we're going to come down here, we're going to test the support. Well, we have a potential spring going in here as we bounce off this prior structure here. This is going to need to kick up here, right? So if this is reaccumulation, all right, so got to back up here. All right, so if this is the distribution, then we come down here, and now we're going to reaccumulate, and we're going up, which is the ingredients are there for that, particularly with this test here of the structure, support, creek, whatever you want to call it. We should expect here now that this support holds. Now, we could come a little further, right? So the idea being that often it's Wyckoff language, we call it a spring. So it would be a push down to grab the liquidity there, run the stops, and then push it back up. Right? So, but wouldn't that play nicely? Because look, you just see how the two play together here. If we work up from this, 1, 2, 3, 4, there's your spring, grab that liquidity, ram it up, there's your 5, right back in line. So you could see how the ABC could play right in context here. ABC now heading down, right? Are we going A, B, C again? Well, if that's the case, then you'd anticipate that back up here where we had distribution previously, we potentially could see that distribution. I mean, the other thought is you could look at it this way and say this whole thing is just a big trading range, right? And until we push out of this and then come back down, right, there's your structural buy off of, well, this would be your creek, or structure, or the prior resistance becomes the support. Now, if that prior support, this resistance becomes the support, and we kick out, and now we're heading higher, right? Now we're looking for, now we're in a trend. But right now, are we really there? I mean, you could simplify the Wyckoff, but with that, just say, okay, there it is. There's the range. We're in this range till we get out of that range. That's where we are. Or if you wanted to come down here, which is, I think, there's a case to be made for this, that this is potentially now reaccumulation, but it's going to need, you could work a Wyckoff structure here that would have this heading lower as well. So it's a little unclear here. So much like the Elliott, you've got this contender for this other kick. Same thing here. If this is going to hold as a reaccumulation here on a smaller degree, but Wyckoff, like Elliott, is fractal, so we can see accumulation within accumulation. If you see that, this needs to hold. All right, 1 test, 2 test, possibly the spring. We need to rally here. If this starts to fall apart, well, then I think you're back here reconsidering the way this is labeled from a Wyckoff perspective. But we're not there yet, right? Not there. But all of it seems to be suggesting that if there's one more push up here, we got to test all of this supply up here. If we're coming back up here, this is going to need to absorb and then carry on, which, again, anything's possible, but strikes me that technically that's going to have to really prove itself. So meaning a bigger push and then a push down to test it. Right now, this looks very vulnerable to me. And I think, I had this pitchfork here just to bring it into the structure here of the Wyckoff, right? So you see here I'm using the secondary pivot, right? That is not to be ignored, right? That this is, right? This is significant when we tag a median line like that, right? Not to be ignored. So where are we going? Are we gonna push down here? I just don't think there's a trade here. If you were looking for a trade right here, I think here with a very tight stop, very tradable. All right, you can trade this here. You don't need to give that a lot of room. Absolutely not, right? Either it's going to hold or it's not. So if this is your, here, let's take this one off, right? If this is your, here's your test. If this is your spring, and now we're going to go off of that, well, I mean, you could put a step shit. You could trade this right here. We might look for a little bit lower. I would not give that too much beyond that structure here. Maybe give it a little cushion for a potentially another little push, because they larger traders know they're going to be stopped sitting there. Right, you're kind of lining up here with the corner of the median line. Let's get you up. No, fuck. We'll just leave it there. Okay, get that. Where are we going? Back to the median line. Oh, there's 4 to 1. That's the only trade that I think is really there, and then it's in sympathy with the idea, right? So you'd either be trying to front run that, or if you're over here on the Elliott count. So this would be 11.3-ish. All right, so if we're going to come down here, that's 11. So coming down to catch this would be 11.1. So you got about a $200 range here that you might look for entry. This being, I think of the two, I like this a little bit better. Right, the entries, right, more technical. We've got that to go up. It suits the Elliott count. You know, the other one is just, it's the difference of, you know, a couple $100, right? So you might take up 25-30% of whatever you'd allocate to this for the structural play here, looking for that to push, or average down, knowing that you don't need to go below this pivot. Maybe average that down so that you end up with a split fill somewhere in this range. You got a target up here at 12, a little over 12. Very reasonable. Okay, guys, there you go. That's about all I can add. So that's little Elliott, little Wyckoff. Hopefully I didn't offend my Wyckoff enthusiasts. If I did, I'm sure I'll hear about it. I'm happy. If I get it wrong, no problem. Yeah, let me know. Okay, guys, there you go. I think, members, I'll be back. I'm going to look at some alts for you guys. But this, yeah, it looks like, oh, shit, you guys gave me quite a few. Okay, all right, so this will end up on YouTube. So there you go. For YouTube viewers, right, you can always join us, right, for free. Come over and join us. Have a look around the Discord. You can get started on the white belt. Don't forget, that's always free to anyone all the time. All right, guys, have a great weekend. We'll catch up with you next week.